In Science 7, Episode 5, we learn about sexual and asexual reproduction. We also learned in Science 7, Episode 3, the different levels of biological organization which are arranged in a unique and complex hierarchical structure. This is important for you to better understand our lesson today. What are the living and non-living components? Have you ever wondered how does the food chain work? In this video, we will be studying the living organisms and non-living components of an ecosystem, as well as the different ecological relationships. In addition, we will also predict the effect of changes in one population on other populations in the ecosystem, as well as the effect of changes in abiotic factors on the ecosystem. So, what is biotic? Are there some differences between the two? What are the different ecological relationships existing in our ecosystem? How are the changes in a population affect others as well as abiotic factors to its ecosystem? To answer these questions, let's get started. An ecosystem is made up of abiotic and biotic components that work together to maintain balance, preceded by a prefix "a", which means without, followed by the Greek word bios, which means life. Abiotic therefore means without life. It is the non-living and living components of the physical and chemical aspect of an ecosystem. Abiotic factors include light, air, water, weather, temperature, and soil. They exist without depending on the biotic factors. On the other hand, biotic component is the living component of an ecosystem. This includes all living organisms that are dependent on one another. It means living organism has a relationship to other living organisms. Meanwhile, the biotic factors include various plants that act as producers, animals as the consumers, and bacteria as decomposers. They depend on abiotic factors for their survival and growth. Let us study the illustrations and identify two biotic and abiotic components. Describe the functions of each identified abiotic components. Write your answers in your observation. Interactions and relationships exist in an ecosystem in search for food, shelter, and protection. These interactions may cause positive, neutral, and yes, even negative influences on the interacting population. A population is a group of organisms of the same species that interbreed and live in the same area at the same time. A habitat is a place where organism lives out its life. Some interactions are beneficial, while others are harmful. There are also interactions where populations of organisms are neither benefited nor harmed. These interactions are called ecological relationships. There are 5 types of relationships that are commonly existing in our ecosystem. These are predation, mutualism, commensalism, parasitism, and competition. Let's start first with predation. It is the food-getting relationship and is found in all ecosystems that with plants and animals. One organism is benefited while the other is killed and eaten by the other organism. An animal that kills and eats the other animal is called the predator. On the other hand, an animal that is killed and eaten by its predator is called prey. Here's an example. Predators may be large animals such as lions or a small insect-eating birds. A symbiotic relationship in which both species are benefited is called mutualism. It exhibits a positive-positive or win-win relationship. Ants and acacia trees living in the subtropical region is an example of this. The ants protect the tree by attacking the other animal that tries to feed on the tree, while the tree provides nectar and a home for the ant. The symbiotic relationship between one organism is benefited while the other is neither harmed nor benefited, is called commensalism. Here's an example. Orchids, ferns, mosses, and other plants sometimes grow on the branches of the larger plant. The larger plants are not harmed, but the smaller plants benefited from the habitat. Parasitism, on the other hand, is a positive-negative relationship where one organism is benefited while the other is affected and harmed. The organism that benefits from the relationship is called the parasite, which is usually smaller than the other organism, which is called the host. Take a look at this example. The mosquito is a parasite that lives outside the body of the host. It sucks blood from the skin of animals or humans, which in this case is the host. There are some parasites that can cause diseases like bacteria and other microscopic organisms living inside the body of the host that can cause diseases like malaria and pneumonia. In the ecosystem, competition takes place when organisms compete for the limited resources like food, shelter, and needs. It may happen between organisms of the same species or different species. Both organisms involved are harmed or affected negatively. This time, let's talk about the concepts of food chain and food web. When the food chain intertwines, it becomes a food web which is more complex than a food chain. Plants, the autotrophs, which convert solar energy to food by photosynthesis, are the primary food source. In a predator chain, a plant-eating animal is eaten by a flesh-eating animal. In a parasite chain, a smaller organism consumes part of a larger host and may itself be parasitized by even smaller organisms. In a saprophytic chain, microorganisms live on dead organic matter. Lastly, if one population dies out, all the populations that depend on that species for food may also die out. A change in one population affects the entire community because all the populations of a community depend on each other. Likewise, by determining the availability of essential resources such as sunlight, water, oxygen, and minerals, abiotic factors influence which organisms can survive in a given place. Fish kills in some lakes and fish ponds are due to the increasing population of the organism versus the depletion of the supply of oxygen. Now, let us apply what you have learned in this lesson. Look inside and outside your house. List 10 biotic and abiotic components. Think of at least 3 symbiotic relationships between and among organisms in your locality. Study the words, match them to their correct descriptions presented in numbers 1 to 10. Write your answers in your activity sheets. Copy the table and check the box if the following samples are able to do the characteristics given in the table. Do this in your activity sheet. Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, MathCycle, like our videos, and hit the bell button. I hope you learned in our episodes about living things and their environment. Come with us and learn about force, motion, and energy in the next quarter. This is Ma'am Leah, your science teacher. See you all next time.